In this second exercise, I'm going to get you to do basically the same thing. You're going to use all of the same code that you used in your first exercise to control this 3-level deep animation, one movie clip nested inside of another. But the difference in this is I'm going to get you to create some buttons that fade in and fade out on rollover and roll off. And I also want you to do this arm type armature rather than the circles. And each one of these arms has the axis point basically on the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist, which I'll show you shortly. Let me run this now and we'll take a look at the end result. I'll just go to test movie. Okay, so when I roll over my buttons, they fade on, and when I roll off them, they fade off. So I'm going to go and stop all of the sections here. And there we go. And the same thing with the start version. So it fades up to full opacity when I roll over, and if I roll off, it fades back to, I think it's 24% opacity. And I'll show you how I made those as well. And you really only need to make one and then duplicate it and then just apply a different tint to it in your color effects, and you can reapply that one initial button. So I'll start these up again. That's 2, and then the third arm part, there we go. Okay, so I'll close this now and we'll take a look at how those buttons were made. Alright, so I'm going to open one of them right here. And they're in fact movie clips. They're very similar to our flyout menu, but a bit of a simpler version, if you will. So let me just pop open properties. You can see it's a movie clip. It does have an instance name. Like I said, I'm using the exact same technique and code to manipulate these different layers of timelines as I did in the first exercise. So if you need to review that, go back to the first exercise. I'm going to open this movie clip now. Now as you can see, there's one motion tween here basically, and that's of this circle, which is a button now inside of this movie clip, and it has an instance name as well. And what I did was I spanned it over 40 frames, I applied a motion tween, then I keyframed the first frame and the last frame to be the same, and if I highlight that, I'll show you the opacity. Under my color effects, alpha, the opacity is set to 24%. Then I created a middle keyframe right here, and then highlighted the button again and set the opacity up to 100% in the alpha. So it goes from a translucent, and when we roll over the button, it fades up over 20 frames, and when we roll away, it fades back to 24%. Now the action script I have up here is a stop command. So you can see the stop command up there, and you can also see the instance name of the button. And the function being applied is simply play, which means let the playhead continue from here. So the playhead continues, and then it encounters this frame with some action script. It's also got a stop command there. And if we click the button, or rather if we roll over button 1, which is that invisible button, the playhead continues on again. So again, this is the invisible button. And when we do a mouse over, and this was all applied using the code snippets, of course, as we've been doing all along, I set the playhead to continue. And then it carries on, and the button fades back. And when I get back to the end, I simply use a go to and stop back to frame 1, as you can see there. Okay, so I actually don't need this layer, and I'll name this one animation. Okay, so it's 3 layers. One layer with my animation, which is a button set at a transparency of around 24%. Rollover triggers the playhead to move, then it stops at frame 20 here, or frame 19 I guess, and there's an invisible button on the outside that once rolled over triggers the playhead to continue again, which in effect fades the button back down to 24%, and to reset our playhead we have a go to and stop that sends it back to frame 1. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to scene 1 now, and as I said, you can take any one of these. Once you create one, just alt click on the PC or option click on the Mac and duplicate it, and with it highlighted I can go to my properties and I can go down to color effects and choose tint and change that color. And that's how I created all of these buttons. They were created from one master and then just tinted. And then of course I applied instance names to them and so on, and applied the code to it. I'm going to quickly go into the armature here. It's a movie clip with a movie clip nested inside, so I'm going to click on it, double click on it. And you can see this first level. Again, I've got a motion tween, and that's of that arm moving up and down. So again, the first and last position are the same. Middle position, using the free transform tool, I rotated that movie clip. And then in here, I'll double click to go inside that movie clip, which contains the red arm and the yellow arm part. And that has two layers, one with the initial green arm, then the second one which contains the animation of the red arm swiveling as well. Now let me show you how you actually change that center point, which is the axis point. You need to go to your free transform tool, and that's how you can grab that white dot, which is the axis, otherwise known as the center point, and that's what the rotation will rotate around. So you can use it like a linchpin area, like a joint in an arm, if you will. Okay, so you do need to use the free transform tool to establish the position of that center point. And you should do that before you generate the animation. Okay, so if I go up to scene 1, again, my action script is the same as the first movie we've done. You can see all the buttons are getting addressed here. And it's either a stop command or a start command. Again, speaking to the specific movie clip. And in this case, this one's nested inside of here. So I want you to build one of these for me today as well.